What's going on, guys? It's Charr here, back with another Let's Talk. Now, today we are talking about hero revisits. You guys might not know what the hell I'm talking about, and we will get into it right now. So, as always, I want to, taking my Charr takes, even though this is a different series than Let's Talk, we're taking myself in a little bit of a different direction. Imagine the meme, just making sure I don't fit in. Everybody is talking about and speculating on like a new core box, the new expansion, and I want to join the speculation, of course, too, but in my own way. We're about a week removed from the PAX Unplugged in-flight showcase that hopefully, fingers crossed, gives us a ton of information about what's coming up for Marvel Champions in the game in the future. But until then, join me on a bit of speculation and talking and discussing about the topic of hero revisits, kind of the pros and cons of it, and what my revisits would look like if I was in charge of the line versus what I think will be the reality when it comes to Fantasy Flight games. Now, we're going to get into what the definition of a hero revisit is and where this even comes from, but a couple disclaimers as always. As always, this is completely my own opinion, and I also welcome 100% every other opinion and comment down in the comment section down below, because it's the point of these Let's Talk videos. It's not just me talking into this void, even though it is when I'm recording the video, but I really do want to hear what you guys think about this topic, how you guys would handle a revisit, and what you think about my opinions, if you think it's really cool or not, even though it's not charred takes. I don't really have a strong opinion on these hero revisits. I just really want to discuss this topic as it pertains the game moving on into the future. The second disclaimer I have is that I will be talking a lot about heroes broadly here. It's my own subjective evaluation and enjoyment of these heroes. If these heroes are one of your favorites, or you have a lot of fun playing them, don't let my comments get you down or anything like that. You can argue with me how wrong I am in the comment section down below if that's something you find entertaining. But I just use them as examples for the points I'm going to be discussing here today. So I want to set the scene a little bit. What is a hero revisit? Now, if you guys remember all the way back earlier in the year when we had the LCG Fireside Chat, that was when the current environment was announced for all of Fantasy Flight games, living card games. I guess that's just Arkham Horror and Marvel now. But in that discussion, we had an announcement that we would be doing hero revisits in Marvel Champions. Now, in a shorthand definition of what a hero revisit is, it's you take a Captain America, you take a Doctor Strange, and you get a new version of them. It's a hero already in the game, a hero pack, or it came in an expansion of the core box, remade into like a new hero pack or product with completely new hero cards, a new pre-con deck, all of that. An important aspect of a hero revisit is that it is the same hero, not necessarily from the same time period, but is the same person. For example, it will be the Steve Rogers Captain America in the game. He is Steve Rogers. The revisit would be a new Steve Rogers Captain America. It wouldn't be any of the other people who have held the title of Captain America. For a further example, they also use the example of a Stephen Strange Doctor Strange. A new version of Doctor Strange would be a new Stephen Strange Doctor Strange. And so that's something to just set the stage and give a definition for what we're talking about today. They announced that hero revisits, they didn't really give a time frame or when we'd see our first one, but they were on the docket. They will be in the future of this game. Heroes will be getting revisited, getting a new look, new hero cards, and all of that for a completely new experience. Fingers crossed on completely. And then I also wanted to talk about a little bit before we get into discussing the topic, how my thoughts have changed and shifted as I've become a player of this game, fell in love with this game, and maybe according to some of the people in my life, play a little bit or care a little bit too much about. When I was getting into this game, there was a lot of big names that initially hooked me in. We've got like Cyclops and of course, classics like Spider-Man and whatnot, and Cable and all these really cool heroes in the game that I'm like, man, these got me really pumped to play, sit down at the table, really embody these heroes and have a really good time. And that was something that really kept me coming back, kept me playing, kept me learning the game as I caught up to every single hero in the game. That even though I was trying to go basically in chronological order, I would always tend to do my favorites of the wave, or the ones I thought were the coolest first, before I would get to the other ones and then move on to the next wave proper and stuff like that. But as I played and learned and, made the channel and talked and played the game so many times since I've started a bit early last year, I feel like I've shifted completely to where the thing that draws me into the game is making sure the content is fun. That means the heroes are like well designed and fun, scenarios are well designed and fun, and that keeps me buying and it keeps me engaged in the game. I feel like I've shifted completely where I see something like a Hulk, and if a new Hulk would come out like tomorrow or something like that, which might happen with the hero revisits, the biggest thing that's drawing me into buying that pack isn't that it's Hulk, it's that it has a really cool, unique, and interesting design that not necessarily hasn't been represented in the game before, but is really unique and interesting and his own, right? Like, you feel like you're embodying the hero. It's fun, it functions well, and it's just a really good time. And something I'll talk about the game is, in general, is that a lot of the recent stuff, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Civil War, is just, it has this baseline level of quality that is so much higher than I think the rest of the game. Not to say that the rest of the game is weak or bad in any stretch of the imagination. It's just that these new products, when you buy them, the experience is so tailored, it's so smooth. The heroes feel like they work exactly as they were designed to do. There's no like rough edges around them. You know what they're good at, you know what they're bad at. There's so many interesting hooks, and I've sung the praises of Tiger and Hulkling specifically in multiple videos in the past month as Civil War has been out on the channel, that to sing their praises some more, that they have just so many interesting hooks in every single aspect, and all their hero cards are just really cool. They feel unique, they feel fun every single time you get them to the table. They feel like they're doing something different, and that's not something I can say necessarily about every single hero in this game in the past. And again, it's not a knock on the designers or the designs of the past or kind of like what they were designing around or anything like that. It's just that when you sit down and get a Marvel Champions product today, without a doubt you were in for a amazing experience, where maybe in the past you were in for a good experience baseline, and that's kind of where I'm coming from. So when we're talking about the products and these revisits and everything like that, all of me getting drawn into big names isn't the real thing anymore. It's that I know all these products are going to be super well, play tested, well thought out, well designed, that it doesn't matter really the hero on the box for me at this point anymore. What it does matter is how fun they are to play, and they've been showing time and time again recently that these designers are firing on all cylinders. You got Wonder Man, who looks awesome and got me inspired to read old 70s 80s Avengers team books because I thought his design looked really cool, fun, powerful, unique, all of those adjectives. And then Hercules also looks like a knockout of the park thematically, and it looks so different from everything else in the game. That's a little bit about me and like what I think, setting the stage for what a hero revisit is, and my thoughts about like the heroes and kind of the content and how I engage with the game. Let's get into the topic proper here. So I think I want to start off with the general like pros and cons of a hero revisit. So I have a couple of notes here, so pardon me if I have to like read off them to keep my train of thought going. But when we get to revisit designs, a really big pro is that when we revisit designs, and for lack of a better word, we're able to fix or change the designs that failed, and I put failed in quotation marks because there's going to be a lot of people who like some of the heroes maybe I discuss here in a key way that hurts the hero, hurts the experience in some way that's important. And so obviously I don't have to beat around the bush here. When we talk about a design that I think, in my opinion, fails to embody maybe what the designers intended to do, the number one culprit that everyone will tell you, should be no surprise at all, is Hulk. I'm not going to sing the praises or dig into why Hulk, I feel like, does not live up to the superhero fantasy of the Hulk in any way even close to imaginable, but a couple of his problems is that he has a way too expensive kit with probably the worst economy in the game, and the only hero in the game with an absolute negative hero side effect to try and balance out his high stats and high health pool. Hulk, when you play Hulk, it feels like you are constantly fighting the design. It feels like there are really cool, interesting decision points with so many other heroes in this game that Hulk just doesn't have the luxury of having. Yes, the Hulk smashes are fun. Yes, he can have like good attack stats, and he can like maybe play a defense build and like ready up and defend for people. But on a fundamental level, I don't think Hulk succeeds as a design. And I think something that might be a bit controversial for some of my Thor fans, you look early in the game too, I think Thor isn't very far from Hulk in this aspect. I think the way that his low economy doesn't tie into like kind of his cards, and you have like the Asgard and a couple of these things. The biggest culprit, I think, for Thor is probably the hammer throw, because you have to exhaust this upgrade on the board to even play it as a cost to use the attack, and then it returns to your hand, so you can't play multiple. I think that a lot of these early designs, there is something that I subjectively call an endearing bad design, and something that's, I wouldn't say objective here, but a design that feels bad to play with or try to play around. I think stuff like Thor and Hulk, they fail in a way that I think doesn't super embody the hero. It doesn't feel super powerful. You don't feel powerful playing these heroes, and it feels like you actively fight against the hero kit to do, like, have these really cool moments of, clarity. You have these really cool and exciting moments in the game that I feel like a lot of the new heroes don't have those rough edges. I'm a big She-Hulk defender, and I think She-Hulk is kind of in this similar way, but in an endearing way. She has a lot of really cool things that wouldn't, 15 HP, I think she's the only hero in the game with that. 5 recovery, super good. But a lot of her hero cards aren't great, but she has a couple diamonds in the rough. The 1-2 punches, the super split personality is one of my favorite cards in the game. Superhuman strength, right? I can sing the praises of heroes I like and don't like all day, but the example is that a big pro of the hero revisit is that it gives them this ground and this kind of way to revisit these designs that they feel they should get another chance at. That they feel in one way or another the design failed their initial vision, and this is their chance to go ahead and do it again. Give it another try, breathe some life into this hero. I, for one, am super excited to hopefully get a playable Hulk in the future. Now, whenever that comes and whenever they decide to do that, I think without a doubt that has to be number one on their list of revisits. And I wouldn't be surprised if it is the first one they decide to release, because I think Hulk deserves his time in the limelight. I think he deserves his chance to shine. And the current Hulk in the game, I feel like doesn't embody that in any stretch of the imagination. Another pro for this is that you can get these older fan favorite heroes into the hands of new players, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the current environment announcement. As far as we know, there's no update on reprinting older heroes or anything core environment related, so I think everything up to wave 7 is going to be out of print, if I'm not mistaken. So if we just do a quick scroll down of all the stuff that's going to be out of print, Captain, Miss Marvel's really famous for, comic book readers, out of print. Captain America, out of print. Thor, out of print. Hulk, out of print. Like, all these heroes that people love. I'm trying to look for Scarlet Witch, really big, really famous, out of print. Star-Lord from, MCU Synergy, out of print. These guys aren't super popular by any stretch, but you got, the new Spider-Man and the big animated movies, out of print. We've got, these guys aren't super huge. You got Cyclops and all these X-Men out of print, right? And the X-Men license is weird, right? So this is not a guaranteed thing by any means. But what hero visits allow them to do is get these products and remake them and get them, even though they won't necessarily be evergreen, we don't have any confirmation on that, it gets new people and the new blood getting into the game, which I've anecdotally noticed that a lot of people are excited and joining the game. I think there's a lot of activity around the game recently, and they can get their hands on this Captain America or get their hands on their Doctor Strange and have a ton of fun and be able to play and relive these really iconic and fun characters that if they aren't evergreen in the core box, they just have no chance to ever play. That being said, that's about where my pros end. As always, for me, the biggest thing with this game is, like I said, is how fun the heroes are, if it's a really fun, unique, interesting design. But that's still not the only thing, and that's where a lot of my own personal cons come in here. Speaking of the cons of hero revisits, the first one I have here is, and this one was echoed by Rain in the Discord. Feel free to join that down in the description down below. We have great conversations that kind of spark video topics from time to time. So if you ever want a hand in that, feel free to join it. But tangent aside, one of the criticisms that they brought up was taking up too many slots from new heroes / teams, and I have to agree with them 100% on this. So if we think about the hero revisits, and the average amount of heroes we get in a year is 10, and let's say the revisits take up 2 of that slots, over the course of 3 or 4 years, we are losing about 6 to 8 new characters, with characters that are already in the game, even though they're not evergreen and not in the current environment. For someone like me who's been around for a long time, that will eventually start to sting a bit. What I hope they do, which I don't think will happen, but what I would hope they do is that the hero revisits will take up kind of like this bonus wave slot, or like a bonus slot in a wave. So for example, let's say we have a revisit to I don't know, like we want to revisit and remake a Star-Lord or something like that, even though I think Star-Lord has a knock it out of the park design, stellar design, one of the best in the game. Let's say like we go back to revisit the Guardians, right? And you can have all these names like Mantis finally gets a hero pack, Phyla-Vell, Moondragon, and you know, one other slot. There's usually 4 hero packs in a wave. But when you get to that 4th slot, I wouldn't want that 4th slot to be the revisit pack. I wouldn't want that one to be the Star-Lord revisit. What I would want is them to have a 4th Guardian, and then a 5th pack would be a revisit pack. So you think of this, we're just getting more content in a year. Let's say we get 10 heroes on average a year. Now we'll get 12, and 2 of those are dedicated revisit slots. Now, do I think that's actually going to happen? No. That's why this is in the cons. What I don't want to happen is that we get to a point where we're releasing 8 to 10 heroes a year and 3 to 4 of them are revisits. I think for me specifically, eventually I will get tired of that, because even though I'm not in it for the big names anymore, I do love seeing kind of like the history of Marvel represented in this game. Like I said, seeing Wonder Man in the game was pretty exciting. I had no idea who it was, but I got excited because I thought his design of his cards and his actual character design looked cool, and I'm inspired to read and learn more about him. Now, if I'm getting the second Doctor Strange, or you know, the second Spider-Man, and also getting the second Captain America and the second Iron Man all in the same year, this doesn't inspire me to go out and read these comics. Yes, I might have fun playing the heroes, and yes, I might think the designs are really cool, novel, and unique from the original, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it gets me excited for the line as a whole. So I really want them to temper the amount of revisits they do, and do it only for the ones that need it, which I think might go into the next con. Let's see. Yeah, one of my cons was less new heroes introduced, which is good. And yeah, I'll go ahead and go into this point where there's a lot of heroes that, in my opinion, don't really need a revisit. When you look at a couple of those heroes I was talking about in the early waves, like the Hulk and the Thors, that I feel like definitely are overdue for a revisit to make them playable, in my opinion, in a way that's really fun and interesting. What's it called? There's a lot of heroes that I think don't necessarily need one. I think not Captain. I think Miss Marvel is almost like a timeless design. Yeah, the big hands can be interesting in the sneak buys. Maybe you can add different ones in here, which, you know, maybe is that's their perspective when they're doing a revisit. But it feels almost like a timeless design. I mean, Miss Marvel was one of the biggest examples of how different aspects can make a deck feel different. She's like super powerful, super fun. She has a ton of like unique things she can do that are unique to her, that what can a revisit capture differently that the original design didn't. I feel like all these cards are really thematic. They really fit into who Miss Marvel is. And I think a revisit kind of almost loses the magic of a design that was strong on the first go around. I used the example of Star-Lord earlier. I don't know how you design another Star-Lord hero. Of course, I'm not a designer, and they probably are 10 to 50 times more creative than I am. So I'm sure you could do it, but it's just like, then it feels like you're almost, there's going to be fans of every single design in this game, but it almost subjectively, there's some designs that are so almost perfect in encapsulating a hero that making a good new version of that almost like doesn't really make sense to me specifically. Like its existence doesn't make sense to me. This is the most subjective of the cons that I have for sure, because everyone has a different opinion on heroes. Someone might think Star-Lord is like the worst thematic design of all time, where I think it's one of the best and one of the shining hero designs in the entire game, and that's okay. This one isn't going to be agreed on by everybody. Another, you know, big criticism that was brought up as a con is that if the revisits get to a point where they're taking up almost half to more than half of the hero packs in a year, or hero releases in a year, the game just ends up looping on itself and looping on itself and looping on itself. Let's say we go and revisit a good amount of the Avengers and a good amount of the Guardians and maybe some of the X-Men when we get the license back. What happens when those go out of print? Do we get the third Steve Rogers? Do we get the third Peter Parker Spider-Man? is the line done at that point? Like, that's one of the things where it's kind of like, maybe this is a problem that doesn't really matter because we don't have a plan for the line past this number of years, but I just don't want the game to just be cyclical. Like, okay, now we're getting to the third revision of Spider-Man and the third revision of Captain America, because there's so many heroes and teams we've yet to touch. We've got the Defenders, we've got the Fantastic Four, we've got the Midnight Suns, the Inhumans. There's so many cool things we can touch and revisit. And even though I don't mind revisits as a concept, I don't want it to be at the active hindrance of the game expanding into more, into bigger things, and being a big celebration of Marvel, as a comic, label. I think that's all I really have to elucidate my pros and cons on the topic. So how would I go about doing a hero revisit, which is, I think, a pretty important thing? It's like, okay, you're talking, how about you take a crack at it, wise guy, essentially. For me, I obviously mine would be super subjective, but I think there's a lot of heroes in this game that are due for a revisit. Even though I have a lot of fond memories for some of these heroes, if we look in the core box, I think Captain Marvel could probably hit a revisit. I think that she's really unique in an endearing way, like She-Hulk. But I also think that she can have more interesting cards and things she can do that would be fun. I wouldn't be opposed to most of the core box getting a revisit, even though I really love a lot of these designs, and I think they're super unique in a way that they're not standardized in a way that kind of like the newer heroes kind of are. Every new hero is going to have like a thwart event, they're going to have an attack event, they're going to have a defense event, but you look at some of these really early designs, they didn't have those guidelines kind of set out, which makes them really unique in the space of the game. I think obviously something like a Thor and Hulk, as I said, could probably hit a revisit. Maybe something like a Quicksilver, people don't really think, even though they like the hero, it embodies that feeling of playing a speedster very well. He has a lot of cards he needs to build out, and I think if a new Quicksilver was released, he wouldn't have 3 separate upgrades to raise his stats. He'd probably just have an actual stat line and some sort of like balancing factor, maybe less readies in his kit, maybe his resource generator is different. But what I would do is that I would, first of all, there would be dedicated revisit slots per wave, and I'd probably limit it to once per wave, just for the fact of how much design work it takes to even uplift a previous design or start completely from scratch. Let's say we have an average of 10 heroes a year, bump it up to 12, one revisit in each wave or cycle in a year, since they want to get back to 2 cycles in a year. I would also not limit it to just like big names, right? It would be based on merit and based on where do we think we where this design didn't miss the mark, and leaving the designs that did hit the mark alone. So like I said, for me, that would be something like a Hulk, that'd be something like a Thor, something like a Quicksilver. And this is my wishful thinking. I don't think FFG is going to go this direction at all, in either aspect. So if we get into what I speculate their revisits are going to look like, it's just going to be the most popular heroes. I think it's I don't think it's a big secret that it's a business that wants to make money, especially with the new, kind of Asmodee and whatnot overhead, leading them from above, saying this line needs to make more money. How do we make more money? Okay, let's do the current environment, right? It makes the game more enticing to local game stores. They can get all these old packs off their shelves. People will buy them. I'm not doing a conspiracy that they're doing like FOMO tactics to get people to buy the old stuff. People have like tinfoil hat theories on that. I don't think it's that at all. I think it just, regardless, the game is going to go out of print at some point. I think there should be a print to play or print to demand type of system implemented once these things go out of print. But I don't think there's some big corporate overlord being like, put FOMO in the consumer so they can buy all this stuff off the shelves, and then we don't do the current environment, or like the current environment comes. I think it really is it's a business decision, because the game takes a lot of shelf space. People get confused on what the game is and what they should buy. So getting a current environment and hitting it into a specific streamlined kind of product line is definitely a business oriented decision. And that's where I think a lot of these hero revisits would land for them as well. It's not going to be on the designs that they think are weak, or the designs they think they can add something new or unique to. It's going to be to the more popular heroes. I would probably bet 9 times out of 10 our first revisits are going to be Hulk, and it's going to be Captain America, Iron Man, and Spider-Man, probably somewhere in that 4. Probably 3 out of those 4 will be the first ones that get revisits, and it's because they're popular and they make money and they want to make money for the line. And if this is a way that the higher ups, keeps the line going, it keeps it alive, and people like it, and we get new people in the game who buy this stuff, this is kind of the caveat, or kind of like, the burden we have to bear as a community who is really looking forward to new heroes and new teams and stuff like that. I'd say we we'll bear it. If not, then then we move on to different and greener pastures. But for me, as long as it's not overtaking the new content, I'm talking like 1 to 2 revisits a year, not 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or anything like that. Low amount that doesn't take up box slots. Again, I think it will take up one of the hero packs in a wave. Hopefully not 2, because that'd be pretty bad in my opinion. But yeah, as long as it's not overbearing the line and the new stuff coming out, I think it can be okay as a way to kind of satiate probably the investors that are higher, much higher than the people designing the game are. And as always, I do think as a second thing that they would do, it's going to be the most popular heroes, not the ones that necessarily need a redesign, just ones that will make money when they do redesign and re-release them. And also, I think it will take up slots, probably not in expansion boxes, but definitely in hero packs. That's kind of like a bit of a bitter note to end it off of, but I don't mean to say it that way. I just mean to be a bit realistic on what I think Hero Revisits means for the future of this game. But what do you guys think about Hero Revisits? Let me know down in the comment section down below. There wasn't a ton of visual on the screen. I know I had this like side-by-side view here, but it was meant to elucidate a couple of my points, so I'll just leave it in post. But let me know what you guys think about Hero Revisits, the topic generally speaking. Are you excited, not excited, kind of hesitant, or you're kind of just like waiting to write it out, see what it looks like before giving a big value judgment? In general, if I were to sum up my thoughts on it, I'm not necessarily for or against Hero Revisits, but to put it kind of simply, what I anticipate Hero Revisits will look like for the game, I am against. My own idealized version of Hero Revisits, I'd be for. And obviously, like, oh, okay, like, obviously the thing I made up I'd like, and the thing that I think they're going to do I don't like. It's not necessarily as simple as that, but I think it's a very business-oriented, business-minded decision that even if it does produce really fun gameplay and really fun heroes, I really hope it doesn't get into the way of expanding into these corners of the Marvel Universe we haven't touched yet. That's basically the end of it for me. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. Leave a like, subscribe, comment if you haven't already. Take care of yourselves. Have a good one. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.